Hello, welcome back to another video on astrology. In this video, we'll be talking to you about the epidemics and the pandemics that has haunted mankind. Before that, let me introduce Dr. Ramki Murugan. So,
of course, you're right. Thank you.
glad to have you with us. And this is basically going to be a kind of a research, something to do with the astrological patterns, and more
Okay.
trying to understand is there a pattern that whenever epidemics and pandemics come to this world, do we have any astrological reason behind it? So, in my previous video, I had mentioned that Rahu and Ketu, I have linked the virus or even diseases in general, even bacteria, to Rahu or Ketu because these are invisible. Rahu and Ketu are also invisible. So that was the point. But when some disease has to become pandemic, even Saturn is involved. And Saturn is always called the Karaka for disease. He is the Roga Karaka. And Rahu and Ketu in India, they represent the snakes or the poison. And so diseases which are very threatening, that when something enters your body, like a snake poison, it can kill you. And the spreading is caused by Saturn, but the disease itself is caused only by Rahu and Ketu. The nakshatras of Rahu and Ketu we have to first understand. Rahu's nakshatras are Arudra, Swati, and Satabisha, whereas Ketu's nakshatras are Ashwini, Maka, and Mula. So whenever you see an axis forming when Rahu and Ketu are on the opposite sides, whenever Rahu comes to, let's say for example, any of these three stars like Ashwini, for example, Ketu will also go a little later. It will go through the opposite, where the opposite Rahu nakshatra is. So this way, that way, somehow for almost a year, you can see that they are covering, Rahu and Ketu is covering each other's star. I will be using some
Okay.
graphical representation to show this
Okay.
during the editing. So basically, for example, right now, earlier on, Rahu was in 2019 when the pandemic started. Rahu was in Arudra, and so as it goes backwards, it kind of exits Arudra, but then opposite side Ketu is in Sagittarius, and that is over Mula Nakshatra. So it won't be exactly straight bang opposite this Rahu Nakshatras and Ketu Nakshatras are not there. They're slightly misaligned. So for some time it will go through one of the nodes, and later on the axis will fall over the other node. So this is so I always notice that these attacks come in like a wave. It goes and then again comes back second time. The second time coming back might be related to the axis falling on the other star, which is either Rahu or Ketu.
Okay.
So this understood, is it just a coincidence that the Spanish flu happened when Rahu and Ketu was going over the same axis as it is right now, or as it happened many times? So this was the question asked by Dr. Ramki Murugan, because he was wondering whether this is just only two cases. So then I said, let's do a video on this, and now Dr. Murugan can ask the questions.
Yeah. Sir, actually, it's very interesting to note the significance of these planetary combinations. My first question is that during exactly on 26th December 2019, all the six planets are actually gathered in Sagittarius. You mean to say the problem started by them itself? Number one. Number two, this kind of pandemic history, whether the six planets came together or it was only between Rahu and Ketu that influence? Is there
So
any significance of involvement of
yeah,
other planets, or it's
when
only Rahu and Ketu in the previous history?
so whenever such questions are asked, we should not rush to the conclusion that it is only many planets coming together has triggered this. So what is the primary condition? The primary
Okay,
condition is Rahu and Ketu will be involved with the same axis of Rahu and Ketu. So that is the first point.
okay,
So with this on the background, if we can add up one more point, like stacking up, it gets worse. For example, like
okay,
you said, grouping of planets is happening. It adds to
okay.
the problem. And if
Yeah,
there's an eclipse, obviously there will be an eclipse because Rahu and Ketu over that axis, Sun or Sun will come in any particular month. It happens twice a
yeah.
year. So somewhere an eclipse might add fuel to fire. It's not
Fuel
that
to the
an
fire.
eclipse is required. And in many
Okay,
cases, we have noticed kind of a peculiar structure in the sky where all the planets not only grouping, they were all in one particular like a garland, half garland type on the zodiac.
okay, okay,
So,
okay.
which in India they always mention this as Kala Sarpa dosha, where all the planets
Those,
are on one side of Rahu and Ketu. So,
yeah, but in
what
Rahu, okay.
is what we are trying to do today is not just discuss the current pandemic or even the 2018 Spanish flu. We are trying to see if this has happened many times before. That's all. So I leave it to the viewers and my students in astrology to find out something more on this. For example, is there a role for Uranus, Neptune? Maybe we can even
Yeah,
experiment on that. That is one idea. But let's see how much, how many, maybe there are other hidden factors about when it actually, why it has a like a trigger, which is forming the trigger. So there might be other discoveries, but what I have noticed is that the prime requisite is Rahu Ketu moving over Rahu Ketu nakshatras. So this is the prime requisite,
okay,
and now
okay,
we will
okay.
do one thing. I think you have
Mm.
some you had some questions to ask in terms of, I think right, any past epidemic or pandemic. If you want to start,
Yeah,
you can
no,
start.
we already had, we had a Spanish flu in 1920
20
around,
1918.
and
Yeah, but
during
but
1820, yeah, 1989.
yeah, we will
Also
do
in
one thing.
1818, I think the cholera.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do to just make it more interesting, I'm now referring to various websites available on this topic, pandemic. So the oldest one, at least recorded on Google, I mean Wikipedia, etc., is the 430 BC. The earliest recorded pandemic happened during the that particular time, and it was associated with the war. So usually we find war connected to these pandemic.
Oh,
After the disease passed through Libya, Ethiopia, and Egypt, it crossed the Athenian walls. This is what is there in the, and two-thirds of the population died. So this is
yes,
something like an epidemic. So let's do a random check on this. So let's open Jagannatha Hora.
very much.
So what we'll do is we will open just this 430 BC. Okay, you can see this.
Okay,
How to get 430 BC? This might be interesting. What you have to do in
okay,
Jagannatha Hora is just put minus 430. That's all.
okay, okay.
The software is such a wonderful piece of, you can use it for research. All the students in the world can use it for research. Not
Oh,
only for the
fantastic.
current years. If you want BC, you have to just put minus 430. And
Okay,
then
okay.
you get the planetary positions on that.
Oh,
When this
fantastic,
first
fantastic.
430, yeah, thank you. So 430 BC problem happened. Now you will see, you'll be surprised to see Rahu and Ketu on an axis
Yeah.
where Rahu is in Satabisha and Ketu
Okay.
is in Purva Falguni. But later on, what will happen is it goes, backwards instead of this way. It won't go clockwise. It goes
Yeah,
anti-clockwise.
retrograde.
So after that, what will happen is Ketu will go backwards from Purva Falguni into Maka. So the first case is perfectly tallied with the rule that Rahu Ketu is involved. But now, if you look at any Kala Sarpa, is like generally now being discussed, you find Jupiter is out of the,
Yes, yes. That,
it is not
yeah.
a typical one, but again you see that there is a grouping of
planets.
grahas, or at least in this particular area where it is Vrishchika, which is Scorpio, you have some 5-planet conjunction. So if you alter the month by the time with months, like one
Yeah.
plus or minus, you can drag them all together and experiment. Since Jagannatha Hora is a free online in astrology software, all of you can download it and keep feeding the dates, and plus or minus, there is an indicator here. You can see here on the top, you can see here that there is a
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
indicator. You can drop down here and see month, date, and day, year, whichever you want to choose. You can
Oh.
choose month and then go subtract like this, subtract
Okay.
-1.
Okay.
Then you see all of them are on this side. So you can add dates and see where it is. But here our discussion is mainly connected to finding a pattern on the background of only Rahu and Ketu.
Okay. Okay.
So now the next one on my files, what I'm having is after 430 BC. The next one is Antonine plague. The
Yes.
Antonine
Yes.
plague is a very popular one, but it was a sore throat, diarrhea, and all that. It was they were not able to tell exactly what was the infection, but they say it is smallpox. Okay.
And it took place 165 AD.
Yeah, 165 AD. Yes, I think you're also having. You also mentioned this.
Some statistics.
Yeah, yeah. You told me that, I think 165. So I prepared the 165 also. So if you click the 165, Rahu and Ketu on the same axis.
Yeah, you're right.
Again, Rahu is in Satavisha and Ketu is in Purva Falguni. And if you leave a little more time, it will go to the the same axis. But this time you can see a kind of a Kala Sarpa type where all the grahas are on this side. You can see Moon,
Yeah, yeah,
Jupiter, everyone.
yeah.
So maybe this Kala Sarpa also is a connection. Though
Yeah.
classical textbooks have not mentioned Kala Sarpa, it was maybe it was mentioned in some other books, but it is I think very much used by Indian astrologers. But we find that Saturn is very close to Rahu most of the time, and there is always a grouping of planets coming very close. But it's not
That's it.
an exact group like what you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's not exactly that. But you look at the chart, you see many houses are empty. You see that one, two,
Naturally.
Mesha is empty, Rishabha is
All
empty,
are that's
all are
it.
empty, and then they all come to one side. So this is this 165.
Naturally.
Then what is the next one you have? I think you have this 250. You sent me this
I have
250.
plague of Justinian.
Okay, we'll come to that.
542, 541, 542.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But before
Okay.
that, we have one more at on 250 AD.
Okay.
Okay, so 250 AD is here with me. I prepared it. So I click that
Oh, okay.
and see again Rahu and Ketu is in the same axis.
Okay.
It is in the same axis, but this time you see a group of grahas there. So Sun is involved there. So there is an eclipse there. There is an eclipse, and the 250 AD Cyprian plague was again, I think, diarrhea, vomiting, throat. City dwellers fled to the country to escape infection.
Yes.
But instead, the disease spread further, and it went on through North, Ethiopia, North Africa, into Rome, Egypt, and northwards, and it went on like that. Okay, so now you said the Justinian plague, right?
Yeah.
So that we are now going to see.
542.
Yeah. So yeah, we will see that. And this time you see Rahu and Ketu is in the same axis as the Spanish flu and the COVID-19. You see where Rahu and Ketu is, but this time you don't see a typical grouping of planets, but very strange. Again, it is kind of forming like a mala, a garland.
Yeah.
It forms a peculiar pattern. So we need to study more and more to know the pattern. But our point of this discussion was, where is Rahu Ketu? Where is Rahu Ketu all the time? And again, you see Rahu is in Ketu is in Tiruvadre, which is Arudra, and Rahu is right now when we see the chart, it is in Purvashada, but a little later it will go into Mula, which is a Ketu nakshatra. So this is it not interesting?
It's very interesting, particularly if you notice in all this now, the clippings what you had shown so far, invariably this Rahu or Ketu is between Sagittarius and Aquarius. All these
Aquarius.
four
Yeah,
clippings
only these
which you
two.
had seen
Yeah,
shown.
sometimes we also get Rahu and Ketu on Ashwini axis, which is Ashwini on that side in
Okay,
Mesha, and then this side
okay,
we have Swati. We are also going to get some
yeah,
two more cases there, but often we
also,
found only what we have now seen, the Sagittarius, Gemini axis, and
correct.
also Aquarius and Leo axis. Okay, that has been very
Exactly.
often the case. So then we saw one very bad pandemic, the Black Death, which was very
Yeah,
popular.
that is 20
Okay,
crore people died.
yeah. So
That is the largest
yeah,
catastrophe.
that check that.
Yes.
Okay, now we are going to get into this the Black Death, 1347. So we will search for this. We'll open the file. 1347. Okay.
Yeah, black.
Okay. In this again, you see Rahu and Ketu on the same
Mm.
axis,
Okay.
where Ketu is in Satabisha. You can see it here. Ketu is in Satabisha,
Yes, yes, yes,
and
yes.
Rahu is in Pura Falguni. But little later, it will descend. It will go up towards Maka.
Naturally.
Okay. So,
Yes.
but this time you see a typical Kalasarpa.
Kalasarpa. Exactly.
Again, all the planets are on one side. But then you also
Yes,
see
yes.
a grouping of Saturn, Jupiter. So the Saturn,
Okay.
Jupiter grouping with Rahu is makes the epidemic very, very strong and very powerful.
Oh,
You
that's it.
understand this. So we need to look at, maybe we are in the initial phase of research, but other students can join in, and they, using Jagannatha Hora, they can find out all the other possibilities also. But see,
Okay.
the topic is that you find again patterns of the
Yes.
1347.
Yes, yes.
If you look at it, you will be shocked to read this. Responsible for the death of almost one-third of the world population.
Yes.
This second largest outbreak of bubonic plague possibly started in Asia
Yeah,
and
bubonic
moved
flu.
westwards and all that. You can find this from the internet.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is the 1664. Can you see the
Okay.
1664, the Great Plague of London? In another devastating
Yeah.
appearance, the plague led to the deaths of 20% of London's population. Again, you see
Yes,
Rahu
yes, yes.
Ketu on the same axis, same thing, like Rahu is in Maka Nakshatra and Ketu is in Dhanishta. But you
Mm.
see all the planets are on one side again. Huh?
Correct.
So you see again Saturn and Jupiter together. All these patterns are repeating. But here, uh, since our topic is only Rahu and Ketu, where it is, once again it has proven. I want the viewers and the students of astrology to go more and more into this. So if you go to the 19 8 18, so
Okay.
1918 was the Spanish flu.
Spanish flu.
So Spanish flu, if I click open, you find again Rahu and Ketu on this axis, but this time it is forming a spear type on that side. So you see
Yeah.
all the grahas are, like this sharpening on the
Correct,
other
correct.
side, with Jupiter and Saturn bracketing Rahu Ketu. So and it went for many 2-3 years, I think. There was one epidemic, like 500 million people are affected. This 1877 smallpox. Okay,
Yeah.
so this, if 1877, you see this 1877 again, Rahu Ketu on the same axis. You can see it here.
Yes, yes, yes.
So repeatedly, again and again. So many times, how did it happen? So these are the,
Mm.
so we need to maybe study more about all these epidemics and
Mm.
pandemics. But
Yeah, this this
it
this
is,
goes to prove that that astrology does not fail. Astrologers
yeah.
may fail.
No, it's not only that. People always were, looking at their own lives. It's a personal reading and personal horoscope. They generally don't want to look at the whole world. The astrologers are busy
Mundane.
with their own clients. Only people who are not professional astrologers, they have enough time to do all this. So students of
Naturally.
astrology should do the mundane astrology, and they can
Oh,
buy this book, Brihat Samhita, which contains all
okay.
the details. It is given, but in fact, we are going to stop here. But I have
Okay.
collected over 30-40 cases of epidemics and pandemics. and
Okay,
very
okay.
strange. All of them, Rahu Ketu is always in the Rahu Ketu axis itself. So that is the conclusion of this
Oh.
research. And thank you, Ramki Murugan,
Mhm.
for pushing me to do this video. You are always after me. You're always asking me, when do we do this video? When?
No, I sincerely thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to talk to people like you who has been doing a lot of research and very scientific. Your approach and your knowledge delivery is very scientific. That's the reason I always
Yes,
wanted to join you. So thank you for a wonderful opportunity of doing
thank you,
this. Thank you.
thank you. I hope the students in astrology will do more research on this by
Yes,
experimenting with
naturally.
the Wikipedia is there, internet is there, so you can literally go and then go backwards. And you also have Jagannath Hora, which can actually go into the BCs also. Maybe this is not known to many people. And
That's true.
yeah, it's wonderful software.
A lot of research can be done.
Yeah, and hope to see you again
Thank you.
in the next video. Thank you.
We have come to the end of this video. In case you have any doubts, please type them out in the comment section. And whenever I find the time, I'll answer them for you. And see you soon in my next video.